The majority of engines I've torn down on this channel are engines that would normally be here in the shop. These are engines that I sell parts for, I buy vehicles that they come in, and some of them I even own personally. I guess what I'm trying to say is, it means I know some things about some stuff and junk. I have some experience with that stuff. There are also engines that I have no experience with whatsoever, and I know some of you have been waiting an extremely long time to see a Volkswagen or Audi engine torn down on this channel. And it's not that I don't like them, or I think they're terrible or hard to work on or unreliable. I don't really think any of those things. It's just that I already do so much. I don't have the capacity to do more. But to answer some requests in many of the comments, I went out and found one. This is a 1.8 liter turbo engine from a 2014 Volkswagen Passat. I think it also comes in Beetles and Jettas, possibly other stuff in other parts of the world. And I don't really know what these are known for failing-wise. I know these engines are pretty expensive, and that means that there's a reason, typically, because engines that are cheap are usually good. That's just how it goes. If you want to go out and buy certain engines, they are really inexpensive because no one needs them, but these are expensive, and I'm sure there's a reason why people need them. So we're going to take this engine apart. Now, this was a returned engine from another yard. It comes compliments of Route 3 Auto Salvage, a local yard that I deal with. Thanks, Mike. And it was returned because it has a bad piston, or so he was told. Now, I don't really know what that means. I'm sure we will find out. It was diagnosed at a dealership, apparently, so we may actually find some damage today. Let's just see what this does. Let's just see. The original 1.8 Ts in the late 90s Passats and Audi A4s were about 150 horsepower. Breakthroughs in modern technology have added direct injection, variable valve timing, all for another 20 horsepower. This makes 170 horsepower. It's really quite unfair to compare these to the old 1.8Ts. They're completely different engines. I know a little bit about those older engines, and I'm just making a joke. I'm not really being serious. But whoever diagnosed this engine has kind of taken some stuff out. Well, that doesn't come out, but this comes off, right? Okay, that's still, it's loosely assembled. Some disassembly required. The very first thing we're going to do is pull the coils and get the plugs out to see what they look like. Oh my God, why? They are stuck. Very stuck. Well, I don't know what else to do. I guess we could try. Whoa! Ah! It's like these boots are made out of Stretch Armstrongs. I mean, that was just one. Didn't even break anything. What the heck? Why? Ah, there's one. That did not feel good, by the way. I punched a chain. We're going to get that out of the way and see if we can just pull these out the right way. Okay, so I got 1.5 out. That's not really good enough. Why? I mean, I can rotate it and whatever, but the boot is what doesn't come out. I think it's probably because this engine sat outside for a while. That's likely the trouble we're having right now. I mean, this is, I don't understand how these coils were made. Wait a minute, that seems dangerous. There. Now I can just hope for the best. See? Only got one more. Oh. Well, we can look at one plug, maybe. Well, we can't really tell much, but we know that there's no malice in that combustion palace. It looks dirty and it's wet, but this engine sat outside for a very long time, which is likely why I can't get the boots out. I guess one's better than none. Now I'm going to remove the one bolt It is still holding this timing cover. So everything looks what I presume to be okay so far. I don't see any broken guides or anything like that. Before we pull the valve cover, I'm going to remove the high pressure fuel pump housing. It's already missing the pump, unfortunately, but we'll get the housing off and then we'll pull the valve cover. This is crankcase ventilation here. Wow, tiny little lobes. Much like other European engines I've torn down, the valve cover has integral cam caps. Oh, you know what? Is that causing me a problem? That might cause me a problem. I think. Yes, that was it. Oh, now it's these boots. Oh, the boots. Okay, well, we have blue and we have a forklift. So between the two of them, well, I don't know that we're going to turn this over without cam caps. I might just wait till we get the head off. I'm going to pull all the bolts out because I will be reassembling this if the parts are good. Oh, okay, so these will just pull through. I'll just help them along. And it's off. This looks very simple in here, although those lobes are very, very narrow. Probably the narrowest on this channel so far. Some scoring and grooving. It's not awful though. It's very little can I feel with my fingernail. And I don't know how many miles are on this engine, so I don't know if that's normal or not. Next, we're going to try to remove the turbo. Start with the heat shield. Now, there's not a whole lot of six-sided bolts on this engine, but that does hold the turbo to the cylinder head. Again, this doesn't have an exhaust manifold. It's all integral into the head. And is that flexible? Yeah, that'll come out. It looks like it comes out. Oh, it's coming out. There we are. Coolant fittings came right out. The oil feed, not so much. Can I get to that one? Nope. We're actually going to leave this one in place because that's the easy one. We'll use a ratchet wrench on the others. Now I will unbolt the support bracket from the block. There we go. Oil drain is done. So there's one bolt and the oil feed. Let's take the bolt out. Oh, I have to pull this fitting off the turbo, huh? It looks like I do. What that is on there? There we go. If I just pull harder, maybe. That didn't do much for me. Well, I guess when you pull straight, huh? Now, unfortunately, I cannot see the condition of the compressor wheel because of the design, but it does have an integral boost control wastegate. It's electronic. I don't know if that's supposed to be bent or not. I feel like if it was straight, it would hit that, but that could be bent too. And the exhaust wheel, it spins very nicely. It doesn't have enough play to consider it bad, but without knowing its complete condition, I'll probably sell it as a core. Next, we're going to remove the oil filter housing and the water pump. I am not a big fan of the water pump design on these engines. I have seen those in the past, and I just don't like it. But let's get this oil filter housing off, and then I'll show you why I don't like the water pump. Well, that was easy. Oh man, that gasket's in really bad shape. It's really hard. Not gonna say it. And here is the water pump. Now, I have never once heard of a problem with these. No, actually, I've heard of problems with these. It's like plastic gets brittle and hard, and it looks like it has an integral thermostat. So that's nice. Let's get this off. All right, so you think it'd just come off, right? Wrong, and I'll show you why. So you remove this cover. Oh, there's another bolt on it. And you find a belt. Now, I don't really like this at all. And it's not that this could ever have problems. It's just, how do you know if this breaks? How would you ever know until it overheats? Next, we're going to remove the harmonic balancer and then the lower timing cover. So, that's pretty interesting. That's how they key it. In lieu of a keyway or a Woodruff key, and it's got one big wedge. That's how you know what position to put this in. Now we'll get the timing cover. Now this probably just pops right off. Just right off. That's what's behind door number 2. Oh my God. There's so much going on in there. So one of these, it looks like it's got balance shafts, but one of these drives the water pump shaft. That might be on the back side of a balance shaft. Here's a mechanical tensioner here, a hydraulic tensioner here, and then a mess of guides. This one drives the oil pump, which is in the pan. Let's take it all apart. Well, I'm not sure where to start with this, so I'm going to start with the hydraulic timing chain tensioner. Nothing bad could possibly happen. I'm going to look the other direction for safety. What happened, guys? Oh, nothing. Okay, well, we're going to just put this here, and then again, I'm going to look the other way. Oh, that wasn't too bad. Next, I'm going to remove this guide. It looks like it's got a pretty big spring on it. I should probably look. Oh, it's fine. Yeah. More bark than bite. Now let's take a moment and get some of these big guides out of here. This comes out, right? Yeah. That actually looks pretty good. Oh, something's keeping that one in place up there. At this point, I'm just guessing as to the order in which I need to do this. I have no idea. So this is going to be okay, I think. Well, this has to come off of here first. Wait a second. How does this come off of here? How do I get this up? There's no way I have to pull the pan to get this. No, we're not going to play that game. We're going to take this and we're going to slide this into. That is just perfect. All right, now I need to get this off. I could cut this, but I'm sure that's not what the factory manual wants you to do. Can I get the chain off? Oh, look at this. So you got to think outside of this box. Yeah. Okay, now this nice, fine chain is trapped by this one that drives the oil pump. In the meantime, we can get all of this stuff out of the way. Yeah, all these guys are in great shape. Yeah, perfect. This is... Oh, I don't even know what just happened. Well, that's gross now, but that drives that balance shaft that drives the water pump. I guess that's the balance shaft. Now, I could cut this. Yeah, I could cut this. Now, to cut this, I'm going to use my grandfather's Porter's new easy cutter. Cut straight, keep in good adjustment. Oil joints. Yeah, that's never happened. Well, that was that was kind of unnecessary. That just kind of fell off there. I did cut it, but that was an exercise in futility. So as you see, cutting that was totally unnecessary. It has the same type of fit. I'm sure there's a name for it, which I don't know. This just fits on the crank in one position, I'm sure. Right there. And that just fell off. So now I can just remove these beautiful timing chains. And this one, which I have cut, it is most of the way through. There's 1/2 of a link left. Cutters did a good job. Just didn't need them. Okay, now it's time to pull the head. And the very first thing that we're going to do before we get to the head bolts is remove these 4 T30s. Okay, now it's time for the head bolts. Well, they're not very tight, but they are tight enough. So the valve cover cam caps have some wear. They're not terrible. It's interesting that the bridge guide is mounted to the valve cover as well. And the cam journals look pretty nice in the cylinder head. So do all the rollers, even though, man, those are really narrow. Not a lot of contact patch. Time to lift the head. Are you done, head? So this is what's called a marine engine. This is an engine that runs on water. Okay, it doesn't run on water, but it has it anyway. Oh boy. This is going to be a real fun one to take apart. Well, I can't see anything. There is a piston there. This is like, there's also a piston there. This is great. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get all the water out of this. See if we can do this without making too much of a mess. I think we can. Okay, that missed. Oh, that was rough. It's fine. All right, we're gonna give this a little bit of a brake clean bath. See if we can make any sense of what's going on in here. Use every last drop of this can. So it's going to be a lot of fun getting these rods and pistons out. So far I can't even see anything that might look like any problems. I will say the block construction, it looks very strong. Yeah, this is really disgusting. Let's give these rods a little test here. Okay. So they're all either frozen in place or the rods are actually in one piece. So as you can see, the block has copious amounts of rust and it clearly set at an angle. I did my best to clean this up, but this is still going to be a lot of fun to get these rods and pistons out. I don't see any glaring damage yet, but we're probably not going to see any until we get this all the way apart. The head looks pretty decent. I cleaned this up a little bit. It's really hard to tell condition until you run it through the washer, and no, those valves aren't burnt. That's just some caked on carbon. I could just scrape that off with a screwdriver if I wanted. Now let's flip this engine over again. Oh, whoa. I did not expect to see all this in here, but that's pretty gross. The pickup doesn't have any in there. I don't see any chunks of anything. I think this is just congealed water and oil, but it is pretty sparkly. I don't know. Okay, that's enough cleaning up some junk. Well, no, this all just dissolves. That's just from sitting around. So then we've got this piece, which looks like it's just held in with, I don't even know if that's all that holds it in. I'm just going to pull on it and hope for the best. Yes. Pretty intricate design here. That'll come out with the pump. Let's get the pickup off the pump. Doesn't really look like anything went through there. It's a clean screen. Let's remove this oil pump. Oh wow, it's a pretty neat oil pump. We're going to take this apart. Wow, look at that. Big old springs in here. There's the ball detent. Pretty intricate. I think this is probably one of the more intricate oil pumps we've pulled apart. I don't see any wear on anything. It looks clean. I don't think anything went through this. I think I just pulled a good oil pump apart. Now we'll pull the upper oil pan. I think there's a bolt hiding in here somewhere. Yes. All right, now I've got one that I can't really get to. All right, so to get this bolt out, my socket doesn't fit in the hole. So we're going to put the socket where it's supposed to go, put the extension through the hole. It's got a lot of aluminum bolts too. Oh, I missed one. That comes off with ease. All right, now that it's torn down to a short block, we're going to try to turn this crank over. Hopefully we can use the rings to clean the rust out of the cylinders. I have my doubts about that though. If this turns over, I will be surprised. Oh, look at that. It's moving. You know what? We're going to have to... oh, I'm going to break that crank bolt. I don't want to do that. Well, I'm pretty sure that I bottomed out the crank pulley bolt, or I broke it off. I think I bottomed it out. And I'm going to either stretch threads or break it off. So we're not going to go that far with that. I'm not going to try to turn this over, which would have been nice because you could have used the leverage of the crankshaft to clean the rust off the cylinders. But it did move a little bit. So we'll get the rods and pistons loose. We'll pull the crank out, and then we'll try to get everything out of the other side of the engine. All right, let's get all these cracked loose. Yeah, we'll just use this to... They're about halfway up the bore, or almost to the top. That's what I want. Oh, they are right at the cusp. Okay, that's as far as we're going to go. So that spins nice. We're going to get the mains out, pull this out, pull the crank out of the way, and that way we have all of the access to the rods and pistons to drive them all the way out of this engine. Now I need to remove the splayed bolts, and then we can get the main caps out, pull the crank. All right, now this crank should just come right out. Well, the main bearings look really nice. I don't think anything went through the oiling system other than oil. The crank also looks very good. I don't know if there's any value in it. Again, this is the first one of these we've ever had in the shop. All right, now I'm going to drive the rods and pistons out. Hopefully this is pretty easy. We're moving here. Literally the stand is moving because this engine doesn't weigh anything. I don't want to shoot one of these across the shop. Okay, there's one. Let's go to number 4, see if that's any easier. Well, number 3 is really in there. Let's see if I can get it to... Okay, so that's a good sign. Super good sign. Let's drive this back down. I mean, yeah, that's a healthy ridge there. Let's get that cleaned up. Kind of just break some of this, whatever is causing this to get stuck. That should do it. Well, we're getting there.
Okay.
That did some stuff. I think I can probably just... There we are. Well, these pistons are pretty grungy looking, so we're going to try to clean these up a little bit so we can get an idea of what's going on here. I'm going to get this done to all of these, see what they look like. All that's left are these shafts, and I know I'm only going to be able to get one out just because the other side of this has that 10 millimeter that holds the gear that drives the water pump. So let's get this one out. It's fine. Wow, it's in a plastic cage. Look at that. It's a very interesting design. There's nothing wrong with it. As you would expect, no signs of issues with the rod bearings either. These are all in really good shape. Now, I clean these things pretty good. I looked them over really good, and I didn't see any issues. Nothing horrific or catastrophic. The worst that I saw was that a lot of the compression rings, like this one here, that number 2 compression ring, is very carboned into the piston, and that could absolutely cause a low compression situation, and that's after I cleaned it. So there's a good chance that that could be the problem, but I can't tell, because this thing sat for so long with water in it that that could be why that ring is stuck in the land. The ringland. That's what I'm talking about, the ringland. But I don't see any parts of broken pistons, no cracked ringlands. There's no signs of any valve contact with any of the tops of the pistons. I don't know. I hate that. I hate that I don't know. That kind of bothers me. The fact that I couldn't point my finger, wait, that's rude, and say, that's what's wrong with this engine. That's why this engine smokes or burns oil or has rod knock or has low compression or pushes coolant out. There was no smoking gun. The fact that this engine sat outside as long as it did could have masked any issue this actually had. Could have been that those rings were carboned in the ringlands, but that could have also happened because that engine sat in the same position outside in the elements. I couldn't check physical timing because of the amount of rust and water in the cylinders. There's just a lot of questions that we will sadly never have answers to. I do have an answer to a question I asked myself before I started this teardown, and that is, how hard is this to work on? Well, I have to confess something. That was pretty easy. That was really easy. It's certainly no harder than anything else out of Europe for that era. Okay, it's harder than this. This is significantly easier, but it's also older. Speaking of this, I don't know if you guys remember this car. This is the car I bought from Copart, sight unseen. It's kind of hodgepodge back together, and I went through and fixed as much as I possibly could. I just did rod bearings and a Vanos rebuild. I got a video coming out soon on that. I just have to edit it, and yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy that video. If you'd like to buy any parts off of this engine or anything I've torn down in the past, I'm going to leave our email in the video description. And as always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one. Oh, and to you dads out there, happy Father's Day.